This game is the greatest rivalry in American sports history. It can attract over 100,000 people into the stadium for its annual fixture. Millions across the United States tune in to blanket media coverage. But this isn't the Super Bowl. These teams aren't members of the multi-million-dollar NFL. They're not even professional. But they are the Army and the Navy.
Army-Navy is the greatest rivalry in the United States of America.
It's one of the great sports spectacles of the world.
Nothing more American than the Army-Navy football game.
The Army and Navy attract the elite of the nation's football stars to continue a century-old tradition. It's an amateur event that sees the home of corporate sport grind to a halt for the annual end-of-season game. There's no sponsorship, none of the players are paid, but winning is everything.
No matter what you do, that's what people want to know about. Did you beat Navy last year?
Every time you hear somebody talk on the phone, they say beat Army at the end of the conversation.
Beat Navy, it's on our shirts.
Our weights have beat Army on them.
You read it on our buildings.
Our stationery says beat Army at the end of it.
You hear people say it, beat Navy.
You know, when it comes time to play, they want to kick their tails.
It is important to beat Navy.
The Army and Navy game is as old as the sport itself and takes a unique place in the United States sporting calendar. While the Oxford and Cambridge boat race reveals much about the sporting roots and traditions of Britain, so the Army-Navy game offers a metaphor for American sporting culture. For American football has always been a game which rewards strength rather than subtlety, where might and muscle reign supreme and individuality is sacrificed to the all-important team unity. It's a game almost designed to bring out the best in those accustomed to military precision and group loyalty. It's the passion and the size of the Army-Navy game that makes some of America's elite football players go to extraordinary lengths to play in it. While many 18-year-old footballers take the offer of lucrative athletic scholarships, Army and Navy football players have to enlist and go through the same strict discipline as any other 18-year-old plebe or new recruit. Further than that, when their 4 years at the military college is over, so is their football career. An Army or Navy college footballer does not graduate to the multi-million-dollar pro league, but is obliged to serve a 5-year military commitment in the armed forces. Effectively, they are giving 9 years of their life to one game.
One more guess. How do you pronounce my name?
Sir, Mr. Quaid, sir!
No, Key! All right, K-E-E-N!
For Berani Nettles, the military discipline is a stark contrast to his upbringing in the urban ghetto of south-central Los Angeles. But in 3 months' time, it will all be worth it for the new recruit when he's on national television playing in college football's most glamorous game.
Naval Academy is a very, very structured environment, and where we fit is directly at the bottom. We're responsible, our only job is to follow orders and to know what we're supposed to know. We get specific things to memorize, such as menus. On top of that, we have to run full speed through the hallways. We call it chouting. We're running around screaming, beat Army, go Navy every day. So, I mean, as far as how important and how built up it is, it's built up daily. It's built up every minute, every hour. That's our main focus, is beating Army.
At the Army camp, their captain, Neil Ravitz, is preparing to line up against Berani in this year's game. He's a senior in his final year at the military college, but his motives for joining up remain the same.
I mean, I never grew up playing with Army dolls or anything, dreaming that I'd be G.I. Joe. I think I grew up thinking about college football and playing in the backyard and dreaming about the things I do now on Saturdays.
Although football is his first love, Neil's senior year means this season's Army-Navy fixture will be his last ever game before he faces up to his full-time military commitment.
Most of us left high school as kind of the king of the hill, you know. Suddenly they take you to West Point They shave your head. They make you feel what it's like to be on the bottom of the pile.
Make sure you guys sweep, too.
You can only say, yes, sir, no, excuse, sir, and sir, I do not understand. And if you tell any 18-year-old kid, not only in America, but I think anywhere in the world, that those are his 4 responses to someone who's only a year older than him, it's a strange system, but it's such a shock to what you're used to.
Hey, Nettles. Yes, sir. What'd you read in the paper?
Only weeks into his first term, Virani is still coming to terms with the constant discipline.
I read about the president and the Kenneth Starr inquiry. The Democratic representatives are very anti-Starrs, his motives most importantly, because they're saying what Starrs found was proof. During our meal times, we're asked thousands of questions regarding the things, what we call rates, required information we're supposed to know, and we have to do our best to know everything. If we don't know it, we're going to be, it'll be a long day, exercise or other types of things, real fun.
That's just the knowledge they got to know every day. They're supposed to know it. Like newspapers, how many days of Christmas, that kind of thing. You can ask, anytime you see them, you can ask them that. They're supposed to know it.
How many days until Thanksgiving leave? There are 100 days until Thanksgiving leave. There are 110 days until Navy, totally, accumulates Army and football. There are 123 days until...
The football game itself is never far from the thoughts of plebes or seniors at either camp. For Neil and his friends, it was the deciding factor in joining the Army.
They kind of use it as a recruiting tool. I mean, because you get to play national television. I mean, there's no other games that weekend, that time. So you're in the spotlight. There's 80,000 people there. Another couple million on TV. People in the Army watching it in Germany or, you know, Korea. So it's a big deal.
All my friends thought I was crazy. They all went to basically the same college. And they're like, why you want to go in the Army? Why you want to do this, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, it's supposed to be like the fun and the party time of your life. And, I mean, you're giving that all up when you come here. So it's a big sacrifice, and especially when you're 18 years old, you know, it's going to pay off in the long run. Otherwise, we're going after all the people that lied to us instead of...
Once each year, Philadelphia's vast municipal stadium plays host to the greatest sporting spectacle in America, the Army-Navy football game.
From its inception in 1890, the Army-Navy game has had a unique appeal to the American public. Long before the National Football League was created, its appeal was based around the all-American hero, officers and gentlemen who played out the most important fixture in the sporting calendar and then defended their country for the rest of the year.
The entire country would stop for Army-Navy, much the way it does today for the Super Bowl, much the way most of the world stops when a World Cup final is played.
The New York Times would have a 6-page section with photographs of the Army-Navy game. The Movie-Tone News in theaters all over the country would have as its lead piece the Army-Navy game. It was a national festival.
8 million Yanks have rushed into the fray, and there's more on the way.
During the 1940s, on a wave of World War II patriotism, the Army-Navy fixture symbolized everything that was good about the Union. These heroic athletes had won the war, and when they returned home, the public followed them to the football stadium in even greater numbers.
Everybody had a friend, a relative, or both who was in the Army, who was in the Navy. So when Army played Navy, you had a side. You know, if your son was in the Army, you rooted for Army. If your son was in the Navy, you rooted for Navy.
The military supermen overran civilian colleges throughout the country, and the Army and Navy players became household names, idolized by children who grew up dreaming of playing football at one of the academies.
The way I first came to know and identified with Army football was as the very best. Both Army and Navy were national powerhouses. Army was actually the #1 team in the nation for 3 or 4 years running.
With both forces vying to be the country's best team, the rivalry reached a new plane. A victory over the arch-enemy now not only meant bragging rights, but national supremacy.
The Army and Navy in '44 played for the national championship. In 1945, they played for the national championship. If the Navy knocked the Army off, they would knock the Army out of the national championship, and believe me, they would like to do that.
With 6 weeks to go before this year's game, Barani's thoughts are far from the rivalry as he makes the mistake of entering a senior's bedroom uninvited.
Come here, sir. What are you doing in my room, Nettles? What is the main for doing meal? Why are you coming in my room? I don't want to plebe in my room ever. If I wanted you to come in my room, I would ask.
No coffee, sir.
I would never ask you to come in my room because I don't think you're allowed to be in my room. I don't think I want you in my room. I don't think I want your nasty body in my room. What's the main for evening meal?
What do you mean the evening meal is?
Don't you know it, Nettles?
Sir, yes, sir.
Are you going to tell me you don't know it, Nettles?
No, sir.
You better know it, Nettles. Go now.
Sorry, sir. I'll leave you, sir. I'll leave you, sir. Just I want to stop. Period. I'm just tired. I mean, you gotta stand there and stand fast and just listen to the guy yell. I don't know. It happens. You do something wrong, it happens, I guess. There's a lot more frustration involved because you can't really do anything back. And even if you're not even, just people that are doing it for no reason, that's kind of, it seems like there's no reason to you. That makes it very frustrating for the person to see that. It's part of being just being a plebe. Sucks. Sucks being a plebe.
Well, when you're 18 years old and you leave home for the first time and you leave behind your family and things you're familiar with and maybe a girlfriend, and you come here and you're braced up against the wall and people are screaming at you 24 hours a day, and the physical demands are so intense, and then the academic demands after that, and then the military demands, it seems overwhelming. And there are times as an 18, 19-year-old where you just say, I can't take it anymore.
I just wish we had more time to do some stuff. I really, it's impossible. Everybody gets 24 hours. It's just so constricted with time. That's the biggest thing. You're battling time. You're battling time with school. You're battling time with football. You're battling time with military obligations. You're battling time with studying. You're battling time with personal time. You want to get your clothes washed. You want to get your things done. You want to call your parents. You want to call your friends. You want to write a letter. Sometimes you just want to sit still and do nothing. You can't do that. It's not allowed.
Unlike other first years, Barani has one place of sanctuary where he and his teammates can escape the shouting and catch up on sleep.
An acquired talent was to be able to sleep anywhere at any time, on an instant. And you really do develop that ability. You crave a moment of rest. 10 minutes of sleep is a dream.
If I lay down, I could probably fall asleep in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm afraid if I do, then I won't be ready for practice.
We're put under so many demands throughout the course of the day. We're running back. Like I said, we have very, very little time getting between formations, and we're doing so many things. And usually we have physical activities throughout the day. That's a major part of our lives. Throughout the course of the day, a plebe is going to be worn out.
Come on, Bronny, you gotta run.
Treatment tomorrow will start at 11:30. When they say 11:30, you're there at 11:30. Doesn't mean 11:45, all right?
For most college football players, the hardest part of their day is football practice. For the midshipman football players, the easiest part of their day is football practice. That puts into perspective for you how difficult the regiment is for these young men.
Number 52, if you could just suck in your gut just a little bit.
For Neil, 3 years on from his first year, life is considerably more relaxed. His major concern is not lack of sleep, but lack of weight. While the top American footballers in his position can weigh in at well over 20 stone, Neil and his friends have to stay relatively slim because of other military commitments.
Gentlemen on the end here, if you could just kind of pull your jersey down a little bit. Just are you ready for
Doesn't go down.
The goal for every football team is to have as many 300-pound linemen as you can. Well, at Army and Navy, you can't have 300-pound linemen, essentially, because they won't be able to meet the military requirements, running an obstacle course, climbing up over a wall on a rope. I mean, these guys may be strong enough to knock people over, but they won't be able to run the obstacle course in a given amount of time.
Then how's Johnny Goff?
To try and put bulk on in time for the big game, Neil and his friends formed the Fat Men's Club, a group of Army football players dedicated to eating.
It's difficult to be big and accomplish all the things that the academy wants you to do. So the Fat Man's Club was kind of like our own fraternity among all the big guys. It's just kind of a way to have fun, and we set up standards for getting into the Fat Man's Club. You have to weigh at least 265 pounds, and you have to have an active fatness, an unprecedented active fatness.
My introductory unprecedented active fatness was I broke a Stairmaster. So that was kind of embarrassing and fat.
Acts of fatness are just kind of things that happen to you because you're overweight. I mean, we had a guy who, during a PT test, like passed out during the run, like 15 feet from the end, just because he was so out of breath. Another guy, like, threw up while he was taking a bike test. Another guy broke a Ferris wheel when he was home one time. So it's not something that happens to normal people. It kind of happens to people who are a little overweight. So we have fun with that.
At Navy, meanwhile, Barani is still trying to pack everything in. The game is now only a week away, and his mind is on the opposition.
Football is the main thought, of course, in my mind. Football is just constantly thinking about what we're going to do for this game and how to do it and how we, and think about victory. That's all. I'm pretty much sure they're doing the same thing. I hope they better be doing the same thing, otherwise it's going to be a really good game for us.
You know, you're pretty similar people, you know, academically, physically. They have an idea of what you've gone through, and you have an idea of what they've gone through. So I guess in a way you know them without ever really meeting them.
It's always a tight game every year because both teams are just fighting with everything they got. I mean, both teams are going as hard as they can. It always comes down to the last minute, last couple seconds of the game, so I'm sure they should be the same.
We have to win at Navy, you know, we just have to. You know, we have to get something.
Well, I can't think about that. I can't think about if we I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to say the word. We're going to win.
The Army must win. The Navy must win. And President Kennedy was there. He was in the Navy.
As post-war America boomed into superpower status, the Army and Navy football teams continued to dominate the nation. The coming of another war should, if anything, have further enhanced their appeal. But this war was different.
Well, come on, all of you big, strong men. Uncle Sam needs your help again. He's got him.
As the Vietnam War ground on and more American troops lost their lives, the popularity of the armed forces began to be questioned.
And it's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for?
People weren't very happy with the Naval Academy and/or Army. You know, they thought that we were military fascist pigs or whatever they used to call us back then, and flower power was in, and make love, not war, all those great statements they used to have.
To have hair this short, you stuck out like a sore thumb. Everybody knew you were in the military because everybody had hair down to here. And the popularity of the military was maybe at an all-time low of the American military because it was such an unpopular conflict.
In the 1970s, the thought of 4 years strict academy discipline, followed by a further 5 years active service, turned many potential football recruits away.
We were devastated at that time. You know, many of the top athletes in the country were going on to their schools. Being in the military was not a very popular thing to do. It was a struggle for us to play against many of the civilian colleges in the country because they were so much better than we were.
That coincided with the real explosive growth of professional football and the commercialization of that and these mega salaries and bonuses that people got, so that very good young players didn't want to go to the academies because they wanted to have the option of playing professionally, which they couldn't do if they went to the academy and had to serve in the military. So you had kind of two forces driving against the strength and success of Army and Navy football.
The Army and Navy team's superhero status was lost as it became harder to attract the best football players to the academies. Whereas in 1945 the Army and Navy had ready-built men to take American football by storm, now the game was developing beyond them. The emphasis was on professionalism, and college footballers came bigger and stronger than the average serviceman. It's some time since the Army and Navy dominated American football on the pitch, but for the public, the clash remains a potent sporting event, continuing to rank nationally alongside the Super Bowl.
Even when, during the 60s and 70s, the standard of football at the academies had slipped, interest in and support of the Army-Navy game never wavered. It never went down. It never diminished. It makes no difference how good the teams are or what their records are. Somehow that game is something that people throughout this country really identify with.
Coming up next Saturday, NASDAQ Annex College Football features one of the most illustrious rivalries in all of sports, when the cadets and the middies clash in the Army-Navy game. Join CBS Sports for all the excitement of this unique American spectacle next week.
Be Navy! Be Navy!
At both colleges, the week leading up to the game takes on a special pre-game atmosphere. At Navy, the strict rules that normally govern Barani's dormitories are out of the window as the corridors descend into chaos.
No, I don't care. This has been an incredible week already. It's been all kinds of crazy things going on. Shaving cream, all kinds of stuff. Pep rallies, real fun. It's a real energetic environment right now. It's real different.
What just happened? They just threw a can of shaving cream in our room. Why? Because it's Army Week.
So far, they shaving creamed our room, kind of suspended a shaving cream can and taped it, and then they kind of poked a hole in it with scissors and ran out the room, and it just shot shaving cream all around our room. So when we came up, we had to clean it up and things. There's all kind of little practical jokes going on and just stuff like that, water balloon fights, and all kinds of stuff. It's real fun.
For Neil, as Army captain, the pressures of game week are increasing, with a barrage of interest from the American media, all of them waiting to hear what it's like to be preparing for the big day and his last ever game.
Yes. Okay, real good. Senior this year? Yes, I am. What is this going to mean to you to be on the field for this last Army-Navy game?
It'll be a special game. It'll be my last football game here at Army. You want to go out your last football game as beating Navy. Yes, this will be my last football game.
I mean, what would it mean for you?
Tell us more about what it feels like to be facing your final game.
I mean, what makes it so special?
I don't think you have to add much to the Army-Navy game ever. A lot of pressure to it. And I think the fans, it's really a one-game season. A lot of pressure. Unique and special. I think Army-Navy is special. It's really a one-game season. Army-Navy season. Beating Navy. A win over Navy would mean a lot to us. A lot of pressure to it. And crazy day, huh? You don't have to add anything to the Army-Navy game, and that's something that's really unique and special about it, and we'll be ready to play.
Thank you.
For Neil, it's time to relax and focus solely on the game. At West Point, no expense is spared for the football team in their most important week, and Neil makes use of the sports psychologist. But the psychologist is concerned that the pressure of the final game will affect Neil's performance. While other 21-year-old footballers are looking forward to a career in the NFL, after the Army-Navy game, Neil's 5-year military commitment begins.
I'm not sure the English language contains adjectives and adverbs that do justice to the pressure that he will experience as captain of the Army football team going against Navy.
Just get back in the huddle because he's getting ready.
My question is, will he want it too badly to the point where he becomes over-concerned and over-worried, and that just breeds tension and breeds hesitation?
I mean, it's you can't put it in words, but the last 60 minutes is playing on my mind a little bit.
I'll say this now, and I'm sure I'll repeat this.
Yeah.
The more important the game, and obviously this game's about as important as they get, the more important the game, the more pressure you've got to take off yourself, the more you got to let yourself really have fun and go out there and play with that confidence, with that reckless abandon, without thinking a whole lot. Because if you think about how important it is and how much it means to you, boy, you could paralyze yourself with all that pressure.
It wasn't until yesterday.
If you ask Neil Ravitz who he is, he says, well, I'm an Army football player. I mean, that's his identity. And at the end of this game, once the adrenaline fades and once he comes back down to earth, he's going to have to look at himself in the mirror and say, okay, now who am I? I'm no longer an elite American college football player. I'm now just a great big 265-pound guy.
This is kind of a position I never thought I'd be in. I never thought I'd be 2 days away from playing my last football game. And on the same note, I was sitting in Grant Hall about an hour ago eating my pre-lunch lunch. I've been playing football for 12 years now. So I guess the big change after the game will be, you know, I'm no longer a football player. You know, I was a football player. I used to play in high school and college and midgets, you know. But I'll just be a regular person, I guess. After the season, we'll talk about what my new life's going to be like. On Saturday, we're going to go out and win. Go Army, beat Navy.
With final preparations laid, both the Army and Navy football teams become wrapped up with their supporters in the fervor of excitement that is an American pep rally.
The war has been declared, and we aim to fight on all fronts. I don't want to lose Army in basketball, football, swimming, hopscotch, tiddlywinks. I don't want to lose in a spitting contest to Army. I don't want to lose to Army for as long as God allows me to walk on the face of this earth.
All coming together this Saturday, and Navy's going to feel it, and they're going to feel it hard. Are you with this team?
We're going to make it 2 in a row against Army. We're going to beat their fannies, and we're going to bring it on back home.
You stay rah-rah, you stay rah-rah, hoorah, hoorah, oh,
get rowdy, let's go! Get rowdy! Hey! Gonna be
It's game day, and 3 hours before a global audience tunes into Veterans Stadium, Philadelphia, Barani's nerves are starting to show.
Being in the stadium already is like looking around. I'm really excited already, but I kind of trying to control, harness my emotions right now. Coach has kind of been getting on me a little more. It's been a little bit harder on me. I think it's expected because, I mean, this is my first time. I don't know if he's making sure I know how important the game is. Win, W. That's all that matters, W. I'm not even thinking about anything else. That's all that's going to happen.
For Neil, as a senior, the win feels even more important.
This game is going to go with them the rest of their life. This isn't something they're going to forget. 50 years from now, they're not going to forget it any more than I forgot mine at the time. It's going to be, we either won or we lost. But win or loss will go with them forever.
In the Navy locker room, their seniors and Barani only have a few minutes left to psych themselves up.
Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you again for another great opportunity, Lord. Help each and every man in this room give back everything that you've given to him with great, great effort. The opportunity for these seniors to go out on a winning note, Lord. Thank you for dying on the cross. We thank you for eternal life. In your name we pray. In your name we play. Amen. 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 See? Come on, boys! Yeah!
On the pitch, the excitement has spilled over amongst the rival supporters as Neil enters the arena for his last hour of football.
You go into the game believing that it is a war, that there is no limit. This is unlimited combat. I've never felt a more total commitment to doing everything within your power to win than I did at an Army-Navy game.
This is Army-Navy.
the game of games. Today they meet for the 99th time. Navy routed Army last year. We expect a much more competitive game this season. The two teams seem to be evenly matched. And the 99th Army-Navy game is underway.
The Army received the ball and the Fat Men's Club takes the pitch for the first time. In the earliest stages of the game, keeping possession is their priority, but one Navy player is about to upset the game plan.
On third down, Goff lost the football. He was stripped by Barani Nettles, and the midshipmen have the ball at the 20-yard line.
Barani Nettles, number 95, comes down on the quarterback. That quick pressure is what really hurt Johnny Goff.
Barani Nettles, freshman from Los Angeles. He grew up in a very tough section of L.A., South Central Los Angeles. Barani did not go to college right away. He worked in a drugstore and a bank to support his mother.
Barani's tackle not only brings him to the notice of the commentators, but also gives Navy the ball and sets up their first touchdown.
Dingle scores the touchdown.
On the Army sidelines, Neal's coach is telling them not to panic.
Trust each other. We got to keep pounding away. Relentless attack. Relentless. Keep getting after the Rasmus. Let's go. 60-minute game. We got to pound away.
Looking deep, looking for Reed. He is open. Ryan Reed off to the races. Touchdown.
But the coach's words seem to go unheeded as Navy extend their lead. As Navy pile on the pressure, Army can only drop the ball, and Neal can see his football career ending on a losing note.
Serena trying to scramble away from a blitz. Now throws on the run. There is a flag down on the play, and it's out of bounds.
With confidence waning, they finally put some points on the board, but approaching half-time, they're a worrying 11 points behind.
That's what we got to be able to do. Control the line of scrimmage. Dominate up front. Let's get some more points before half. We got some time. Our defense is going to get them stopped, and it's up to us to dominate the line of scrimmage. Take that thing over. Let's put it back in the end zone. Let's go.
This is big right here, Sean. I promise you. With the time that's left and the field position, this is a huge third down.
Into the secondary again. Here goes Craig Strucker. The fullback down the sideline. Another big play. And another touchdown.
Army's comeback continues after half-time and puts them within 5 points of Navy. This time, a meeting's called on the Navy sidelines.
We're going to have to go out there and win this damn game. He didn't get slung up. You got to hit him on the throat. You got to do your job. Defend the zone. Defend the zone.
With only 8 minutes to go, the Navy still have the upper hand. They're leading by 5 points and are just 5 yards from another touchdown that would give them an unassailable lead with the time remaining.
Lost the football.
The Navy player crosses the line and the coach thinks they've scored, but the referee spots that the Navy player actually dropped the ball. Rather than being 12 points behind, the Army now have the ball and with 5 minutes left have to score 1 touchdown to take the lead for the first time in the game.
You have to worry if you're behind in the game. Hey, how many times are we going to get to touch it again?
Grossman ready to snap it to Jarena. Score a touchdown.
Barani and the Navy are behind for the first time, and the coach is panicking.
Roger, why didn't you make the play? Slam! That's to win the game on defense. Old-fashioned street fight. Now be where you're supposed to be. It's time to put the women and counter the man and kick some ass.
Still a chance for Navy. And in this rivalry, stranger things have happened without any question.
As the final minutes of the game quickly run down, the Navy battle closer towards the Army's goal. Still attacking, the clock stops with only 10 seconds left. There's time for one more play to ensure that Virani wins his first game or Neil wins his last.
10 seconds left. Broadwater throws is intercepted by Tony Coxum, who dropped it a moment ago.
When it's finally over, I think it strikes you with a tremendous power to realize that a part of your life that meant so much is now finished. And so there's a bittersweet quality about that. You'd like that to go on forever. One of the lessons of life is that nothing does.
I think I'll smile for another day or two until I finally get back to schoolwork. I'm gonna miss it a lot, and that really hasn't sunk in yet. Army football is gonna take a step back for me, and the U.S. Army will take a step forward. And I'm looking forward to that challenge too. I'm not upset about it. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll just be a big adjustment from the way that my life is right now.
We're going to talk in January and February, and he's going to say, "Oh, Doc, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I just feel like nothing matters anymore, and I just feel so bad that I can't play football ever again." And, you know, the guys are down now doing their winter training, and when the spring football season arrives and they're out there on the field, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. And I'm going to say, "Neil, you're going to watch those guys practice, and you're going to count your lucky stars that you had this opportunity. And you got to keep that fresh in your mind for the rest of your life." I was the Army football captain. What a wonderful thing to have in your life.
For Virani, the consolation of having more Army-Navy games to look forward to is no comfort.
This is the game. This is the only game that really matters every year. So many people depend on this game, and it's, I don't know, just very important. Gotta take what happened this year and build on it next year. I really just feel so. I just felt disappointed the seniors. I really want to send the seniors off with a victory. Didn't happen.
The game itself has as much meaning to those who participate in it today as it did in 1945. Because it is their last game if they're seniors, because it is their arch rival, because the whole country is still watching. It matters because of the people who are playing, because of what they're going to do when they finish playing, and perhaps most importantly, because of what they do in order to play.